As you know, previous to all the swings with exchange rates, we had to deal with Corona. And just as that has settled down, then the consumer spending started to come back as well as the inbound. But having said that, we've had to deal with swings in our food costs. In general, Japan imports 60% of its food, and of course, over 90% of its energy. So between the food costs and utility costs, it's been a struggle because we are still trying to get on deflation on a macro basis. And we've always been trying to play catch up where we would try to increase our prices, which is very difficult in deflation. Once we do, all of a sudden, we've had these dramatic swings with the yen getting weaker, as you mentioned, to 162 yen, when we're at one time trying to determine exchange rates at 116 yen, 120 yen, 130 yen. And we can't obviously increase our prices every time the yen gets weak. So this has been quite dramatic. Having said that, because Corona settled down, because we've had now a big boom in inbound tourism, sales have gone up, but unfortunately our costs have gone up higher. So it's a matter of playing catch up every time with exchange rates. Now that it's come down a little bit, as you mentioned, to, say 145 or so, it's still on the weak side. And we will still have to adjust for this. But it's better to deal with strong sales rather than weak sales that we've experienced the last 3 years. No.
So, Ernie, how much more do you think the yen would have to strengthen to get to that sweet spot where it's strong enough that it's also, keeping a lid on your imported food costs and your energy costs and also helping the purchasing power of Japanese, but it's not so strong as to discourage that inbound tourism that you're talking about?
Well, of course, for me, the yen stronger is better, but to your point, everything in balance. I think that a range between 130 to 135 is something that people can deal with, and we're not only talking about the restaurant industry, but in general, we've been able to adjust those prices. As I said earlier, at one time the yen was as strong as 79, so we've had wild swings and we've had to adjust accordingly. And but I would say 130 to 135 is something that makes sense. Regarding the inbound tourism. It's not only because of the weekend. Japan has been an attractive destination for a long time, but people could not come here because of Corona. And finally now, now that that's settled down, we do have actually more tourists coming in than, say, pre-COVID. So that's certainly a positive for consumer spending.